The journey of Fort Collins from its humble beginnings as a military fort to today's exceptional community demonstrates a history of innovation, planning, and building. With the coming of the railroad 140 years ago, the tiny farming town was connected with other markets along the Front Range. The 1870 launch of what would eventually become CSU brought innovative people and their ideas to the community. After a century of growth and decline, leaders in the 1980s envisioned a historic district restored to its former glory. Downtown Fort Collins today has far surpassed that goal and continues to add exciting new businesses and amenities. Fort Collins industry leaders and cutting-edge startups are influencing how people think, create, and communicate locally and across the globe. That legacy of innovation is part of the city's culture too. Decades ago, city leaders chose to place thousands of miles of power lines underground, giving us one of the most reliable electric systems in the country. That legacy is also what will drive us forward as we pursue broadband service for the entire community, keeping Fort Collins an attractive, competitive destination for innovative businesses and their employees. From horse-drawn wagons on the original streets, to the railroad, to today's bike network, travel has always been a priority. The trolley system of the early 1900s made way for Transport in the 70s, which now offers regional routes and bus rapid transit. And last fall, Transport began providing bus service 365 days a year. The fall also brought the highly anticipated opening of CSU's new on-campus stadium. The city and university worked together to prepare for the transition and address cyclists and pedestrian safety, traffic, and neighborhood challenges. That planning paid off, and the smooth-running game days have kicked off new community traditions. As the region grows, Fort Collins is joining other cities and counties to speed up improvements to I-25 through northern Colorado. Locally, projects like the Pitkin Bikeway, Prospect and College intersection, and Lincoln Corridor are improving both safety and traffic flow. In 1883, the original waterworks began providing reliable water to drink and to protect the town from fire. Today, we are replacing 100-year-old pipes from that early system to continue providing the best water in the nation. 20 years ago, water again changed the face of Fort Collins when unprecedented rain flooded Spring Creek. That tragedy marked a turning point in how we prepare for flooding. Stormwater improvements helped minimize damage during the 2013 regional floods and prepare us for what the future might bring. Our police are dedicated to fostering safety by building community relationships and trust. Body-worn camera technology and regular Coffee with the Cops sessions increase transparency. The new Campus West Connections office provides a one-stop shop for collaboration among the city, CSU, students, and neighbors. And each month, police connect with thousands of residents on social media about both the serious and the lighthearted. From block parties to fall cleanup, neighborhood improvement projects to shoveling snow, community begins on your block. Through educational support and an expanded grant program, residents are leading events, activities, and improvement projects in their neighborhoods. And we're having fun! Open Streets brings a street fair atmosphere to the community, while events old and new highlight our most iconic parts of town. City Park has been the bastion of Fort Collins parks and recreation scene for a century, and since then, we've added another 47. Inspiration Playground made childhood recreation accessible to all kids. And the brand new Twin Silo Park continues the legacy of beautiful, imaginative spaces to run and play. For 25 years, voters have chosen to preserve open spaces in and around Fort Collins. That investment has given us some of our most iconic landscapes. We are also deeply committed to protecting the climate and conserving resources. In 2005, city leaders set ambitious goals to reduce carbon emissions. Together, we have since reduced emissions by 12%, diverted 60% of waste from the landfill, and doubled transit ridership. Last year, Fort Collins was the only U.S. city recognized for its inspiring and innovative approach to climate change. Through practical solutions that align with our values, we are taking action to protect the long-term health of the community. This is all evidence of what can happen when a community plans and builds. When we do the work to make vision a reality. We are committed to continuously learning and improving how we operate. The city's budget process starts with community priorities every time. Our strategic plan guides our decision-making, and performance measures hold us accountable to you, our customers. After many years of evaluating and improving our systems and processes, the City of Fort Collins was named a 2017 Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award recipient, just the third city to ever receive this distinguished honor. The journey of Fort Collins is 150 years in the making. Our inheritance is the result of leaders and everyday residents who made this place home and chose the work of community building. Fort Collins is recognized as a great place to live and as a leader in innovation and exceptional service. We aren't stopping now. This is the middle of our story, and we will continue this legacy. You love it here. We love it too. And we are committed to doing everything we can to make Fort Collins even better. Together.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Amanda King. I'm the Communications Director for the City of Fort Collins. We really appreciate Washington's allowing us to use this space just a couple days after their official open. So, and also, can we give another hand to our wonderful band, Danielle Ate the Sandwich?
Hey.
So please also join me in welcoming Mayor Wade Troxell and City Manager Darren Atterbury. And Mayor, do you have any opening regards for us tonight?
You bet. Well, wow, what a night, huh? And great music, and we are now becoming quite a music city, and it's great to be here. I'd just like to recognize the wonderful leadership that I have a chance to serve with on City Council, and I'd like them to be recognized tonight. We have Bob Overbeck, and Jerry Horak, and Ken Summers, and Kristen Stevens, and Ray Martinez, and Ross Caniff. I'd like them to be recognized for their work and what they do for our city. You know, these city council members do a lot to listen to all of our community members. They have many listening sessions, and they're out in our community in so many ways. And I'd just like to thank them for all that they do. We work together as a council, we work together with city staff, and we work together with all of our citizens in our community. Thank you to the city council. I'd also like to recognize some of our former leaders, which one of the important parts of tonight's message is a legacy that we build upon. And tonight we have, in addition to former mayors Martinez and Horak, we also have Mayor Arvid Bloom, former Mayor Arvid Bloom. We have former Mayor Doug Hutchison. We have former Mayor Karen Wykenot. And I thank them so much for the leadership that they've shown in the past. But we also have other former council members, Mike Burns here, and Scott Mason's here. So great to see former council members here. Also, we have Jenny Art, our representative in the State House. Jenny, glad that you're here, as well as Dan Betts. He is Senator Gardner's staff member here in Fort Collins. Also, we have Kathy Wright here. She's just elected council member in Loveland. So congratulations to Kathy Wright, and thank you for all that you do in our community, as well as now what you're going to be doing in Loveland. And I also like to recognize County Commissioners Tom Donnelly and Lou Gator that are here. And if I missed anybody, I'm sorry. Glad that you're here, and glad that all of you are here and joining us for tonight's State of the City Address.
Hi, Amanda. Hi, Mayor. We're all three of us have been delighted to be part of this presentation over the last couple weeks as we've been putting together the materials that you saw in the video and the dashboard work that's behind us. And we'll be talking, for those of you in the back, you don't need to be able to see these. We'll be talking about some of these. They'll show up on the video. But The mayor recognized some of our regional partners as well. Roy Otto, the Greeley city manager, is here, and Roy, I want to welcome you and thank you for your partnership. The executive leadership team from the city, folks are dispersed throughout the room, and I just want to say thank you to the ELT, the executive leadership team, for your partnership, and we're so grateful for the work that you're doing. We're doing very, very heavy push-ups, and thank you for being here. Our staff team, the city's made up of 2,400 co-workers of mine and 24/7, 365, delivering world-class municipal services, and I want to welcome you as well. And you should also know, for the folks here, there are others that are watching. So we're video streaming live, so there are many people watching throughout Fort Collins, live online at fcgov.com, and I also know some folks that are streaming throughout the country, so we're really happy to have you here. And then also, we have what we call watch parties. So at Prost training room, or tasting room, across the way, training room, whoops. I know my mom is video streaming from Corvallis, Oregon, and I apologize for that, Mom. Nothing intended there. The Gilded Goat is hosting a watch party, DC Oaks down on south of Harmony, and then Intersect Brewing. And for all the folks that are watching and joining us here remotely, we thank you. And I want to say also to the people who are here, the 400 of you that have come to this beautiful facility, the mayor and I have talked about this. We want to be able to very credibly represent the city and your local government and the city organization, and we want to show you, we want to demonstrate that we're very serious about governance in this community and the services that we provide. So, one, we hope to do that. We hope you leave with a feeling of being very proud of your local government, and I know many of you in the room do, and so we want to help you with that. Second of all, we want to clearly describe some of the great programs that are going on. So you saw the video. We've got some things here we want to share, and then we're closing with a video, and the mayor will introduce that in a couple of minutes, and then we also want you to know that local government can be fun. And so we're going to hopefully demonstrate. We're not going to sing or anything up here. The mayor might play the ukulele later, but I don't think so. So we welcome you and thank you for taking the time to learn a little bit about and co-create Fort Collins with us.
Thank you, Darren. So you gave a nice overview of the evening, and again, this is a format that we've adopted a few years ago, and it's just more of an informal conversation that we're going to have tonight. And Mayor, as we were talking about this evening, we kind of identified a few themes that seem to cover what we were going to talk about tonight. Can you share a little bit more about those three themes?
You bet. In thinking about tonight's State of the City, really thought and about three ideas that we're going to focus on tonight. One is that we're an innovative community. In many ways that Fort Collins demonstrates innovation, not only in our technology companies, but throughout our community. Next, we're also, when I hear people around our community talk about how they love Fort Collins, there's truly an experience of the heart. And so we're going to talk about experiences, the way you feel about the sense of place and very much the sense of each other in our community. And finally, the final topic is around inclusion, that everyone is welcome in Fort Collins. We're working together to make even a better community. And so those are the three themes we're going to focus on tonight.
Thank you. So let's get started with the first theme, innovation. And we'll start with you, Mayor, and then Darren, you can fill in too. So talk about how innovation has inspired this journey that we have been on and how it's going to help shape our coming year and years to come.
Well, innovation allows you to think about things, perhaps framing it differently in a better way to make your community better. And just some of the things that I think about that make Fort Collins so special. One is that we're a university city. From the very beginning of Fort Collins, Colorado State University and Fort Collins are joined at the hip. And because of that, there's so many things that we benefit from by being a university city, including, an evergreen student population every fall, as well as innovations coming out of the university, but also the partnerships with the technology-based companies that we have within Fort Collins, as well as the freshness of ideas that continually come through a university city. And as a university city, we're a learning community, so we're always listening and trying to understand and to get better in so many ways. And so I think one of the ideas of being an innovation community is that we're a university city. Next is, as a city and as a city government in so many ways, we're striving to become a smarter city. That's not only a smarter city in making better decisions, but also in the integration of technology. And now with the advent of and the vote last November by our citizens, by 57% passing our broadband initiative, it really does enable us to be a connected city into the future. And because of that, I think our city services even get better when you think about our transportation systems and our water systems, our energy systems, and just everything in our community can be even better in terms of being connected in terms of technology as well. Another thing I'm proud of is our climate action plan and how this city has approached it, I think, in a very innovative way. In many ways, we view it as an opportunity for helping to define economic futures related to climate action plan here in our city and to serve solutions literally around the world. And with that, we've been recognized as a C40 Cities Award, and that was quite a recognition for leadership in this area. And it's one that totally makes sense for Fort Collins in so many ways. And just to report, we're 12% below our 2005 greenhouse gas inventory. And so we're well on our way to our goals in that direction and really not sacrificing, in fact, making our city more resilient for the future. I think about how we engage with our business community. I mentioned we have a lot of technology-based companies. We have a lot of startup companies, but we also work side by side with those companies that make our community better every day, the Main Street companies, as well as those companies that offer services to our citizenry and also provide wealth back to our community that enables our community to further develop in so many ways. And I mentioned the Broadband initiative, which is something that will be a legacy for this council and the future of Fort Collins, and really becoming a connected city for the future. And that's important. And I think all those relate to that we're an innovation community.
Well, I want to add to that, Mayor, just to speak to broadband very quickly. We know that 57% voted yes, as the mayor said. We also know that 43 or so voted against it. And we want to make sure and just let you know, we take that very seriously. We are not flip about that. We are not going around gloating about that. We are actually going to take that very seriously. We want 3, 4, 15, 20 years from now for everyone in the community to look at that like the decision back in 1937 when the city bought the electric utility from a private provider. So this idea of innovation, I think this mayor, this council, this city staff, this community takes very, very seriously. So, we've heard words like future-proofing and things like that. We a lot of you may not know that we spent over 3 years really looking at not having predetermined an outcome that said we would go into a broadband utility. That was not our objective. Our objective was to get higher speeds to all in Fort Collins at an affordable rate. And what we found is we wouldn't be able to achieve that given our current conditions. And so over several years of hiring the best and brightest consultants, talking with communities who both had successful engagements in broadband and successful deployments, in some cases up to 86% market share in communities. And we learned from those communities that have had very successful results, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Longmont, Colorado. But we also, at council's direction, went and looked at those sites that had failures. And we studied why is it that these municipal broadband efforts had failed. So I think that it's very important, and we're taking it very seriously. We understand that the city will be in a competitive marketplace. We're in a competitive marketplace at a much lower level right now with Parks and Recreation and the Performing Arts Center, Lincoln Center. And by the way, they're doing a phenomenal job. I was at the Lincoln Center this weekend, and wow, I'm just so proud of the team and that's doing the work out there. But we're taking that very seriously. A couple of weeks ago, the mayor and I were part of a conversation with Dr. Brian Wilson at the Powerhouse, and there were a group of folks that came to Fort Collins from the University of Arizona, the president of the university, several of his cabinet members, a former governor from Wyoming, and a group of folks came and they did a site visit to Fort Collins to learn about our innovation ecosystem. So of all places around the country, they visited Fort Collins. And so if you don't know, the ecosystem in this town, the innovation ecosystem, is pretty phenomenal, pretty special. And so we have folks often coming and saying, hey, tell us about your town and what are you doing? The mayor's been playing in this space in his day job as well as a Colorado State former associate dean and in his roles in systems engineering. But what we talked about was a couple of things. What's really critical to make an innovation ecosystem? We know one is talent, that we've got to have highly skilled, highly talented people who are given the okay to think way outside their box, way outside their boxes, whether they're in local government here at the city of Fort Collins or on the university campus or out of one of the amazing companies that we have at Ziegler and Harmony, like Broadcom and Intel and Hewlett Packard and those companies, but also smaller companies in our community. And so how we create an environment where innovation spins out of those places is really important. So we know talent's important. We also know that access to capital, to funding for these startup businesses is so important. And so we're working on that in that space. The quality of infrastructure matters. Whether you're making microchips or whether you're making beer or other products in this town, you know that, and moving goods back and forth, you know that that's really, really critical. And so the local infrastructure matters. That's a part where a space where we directly play, and we're taking that very seriously. And then the mayor's going to talk in a minute a little more about quality of place or experience. And so that I'll leave for another conversation. Now, what I want to do is zoom into the city organization very quickly. And the executive team had a conversation month or so ago. And so you know, our vision statement at the city organization is around world-class municipal services through operational excellence and a culture of innovation. So we talked about what we call polarity, and I'll talk more about that in a minute, but a polarity is, so think through this. My colleagues, we're asking them to deliver world-class municipal services day in, day out, 24/7, 365, in a replicable kind of way. Not one-off excellence, time and time again. Every time you interact with our utility billing folks and our customer service reps, we want you to have world-class municipal services. If you call 911 and in that space, and on and on and on, planning and development review, the city manager's office and the mayor's office and others. So we're asking for operational excellence, which takes a really solid focus on excellence, right? But at the same time, we're asking people to look up and look at best practices out throughout the country. So whether you're in purchasing or risk management or streets department or in, again, you pick, any one of our 2,400 employees, our coworkers, we're asking them to daily provide that, but then to look up. We think of this innovation piece and operational excellence. On the one hand, they can be polarities, but we're trying to bring those together and say we want both, operational excellence and this idea of innovative practices. Again, whether it's a new bright shiny object that they're implementing in Greeley, Colorado, which we want to learn from and we want to replicate, or whether it's the incremental small movement and continuous improvement. And then I want to just say, and I know you saw in the video, that we were recognized this year for a Malcolm Baldrige Quality Award, and I am so proud of that on behalf of our entire workforce and council members, mayor and council, and past mayors and councils who really drove a lot of that work. And You know, if you don't know about that program, it was a program that was established in the mid-'80s under the Reagan administration. The president and Congress were very concerned about the competitiveness of U.S. businesses, particularly in relating to and competing with Japanese businesses. And so they created this program, this Malcolm Baldrige program, which was intended to identify best practices in business. It started out in manufacturing primarily, but identifying best practices throughout the entire country, and then begin to amplify those and share those stories around the country and pull out the best practices from those best run, most efficient organizations, private sector, public sector, non-for-profit in the entire country. And so here we are. City of Fort Collins is one of those. To share what one of my 7 council members said, this does not mean we're the best at everything as cities go. This means we have a very, very strong focus on continuous improvement, looking at it through systems thinking, being very clear about what our vision is, aligning resources to that vision, and then building systems that ensure it. And I'm going to finish with one other thing. And I remember I've told the mayor this story a bunch of times, and some of my colleagues have heard it. I remember being on an airplane, and I was somewhere heading east, and I was reading Fast Company magazine. And it's a great magazine, particularly for young emerging leaders. It's a great resource. And in there was a full-page piece about what mentees were saying, that what's the thing that their mentor told them that they most remember, the most important advice. And one of those gentlemen in that magazine said, I remember my mentor saying, what's the one thing you believe that no one else believes? And for me, within a third of a second, it was that local government can be great. And it's a big deal. We believe that local government can be great. You will not have a government shutdown in the city of Fort Collins. I didn't mean that to be political, I promise. I better stop at that point. But I hosted, there's a global company that has about 100 HR executives around the country. They came to Fort Collins to visit with New Belgium Brewery to learn about their culture. They came to Otterbox to learn about their culture, and they came to the city of Fort Collins to learn about our culture. And so this was about 2 weeks after that airplane trip, and I asked those 100 people in the council chambers, I said, how many of you believe that local government can be great? And not one single person raised their hands. Now, I'll bet if I raised my hands if I asked you if you believe local government can be great here, I'll bet I'm not the only one that believes that. So appreciate you letting me share that.
You bet. That's good.
All right, thank you. So obviously, innovation is a big part of our culture here, but there's so much more that makes Fort Collins special. So Mayor, let's talk a little bit about the experience of living here. How has that experience evolved? You've been here a long time. And how can we continue to invest in the Fort Collins experience?
Well, Fort Collins is a wonderful place, and I even think it's better now. And growing up here, it was a wonderful place. In fact, it was 40 years ago this spring that I was a doorman for the new Washington's bar that was opening up. So isn't it great to be back here in Washington's in the current location? And in fact, I even worked an auction where the oval stained glass window in this room was out of one of our churches here in Fort Collins. So just to see the past carry on today within our community. This building used to be a moving and storage building. Before that, it was a tavern as well when it was first built in the late 1800s. And so just to preserve this wonderful building and to turn it in such a wonderful venue that we have here today, now into the future. They had their first show on Friday night, and now well into the future. This will be a great spot, a destination for Fort Collins. And so it's experiences that bring these buildings to life. And just thinking about how we experience Fort Collins in so many ways. So I think about growing up here, and it's even better today in so many ways. And a lot of the better is it still maintains a lot of the values that we have had in this community, I think, since the founding. That we're very friendly, we're engaging, we care about each other, and we reach out to each other. You know, one of the more difficult challenges we had in the last few years with the city is with the advent of the on-campus CSU stadium. And that was very challenging. But what we did as a community, we worked together, we worked with Colorado State University, and what came out of that was a better experience for Fort Collins. I remember, you know, there was issues that were thought about parking and neighborhoods and that sort of thing. And through this fall, we had 6 football games. And at the end of that, we even had people that were very concerned in the neighborhoods and so forth that wrote City Council and said, this turned out better than I could have ever imagined. What that says to me, it was the engaging part of Colorado State University and Dr. Frank and with city leaders and working together to make this a better project for all of our community, and it turned out that way. When you think of the underpass at Shields at Elizabeth or the underpass at Prospect and Center Avenue, what we have are legacy projects that serve not only 6 days of the year in terms of getting people to the stadium, but it serves Fort Collins citizens every day of the year, well into the future. And so it's investment and it's caring and concern, and it's also the working together that is demonstrated in that project that shows the kind of spirit and I think really what Fort Collins is all about. And the point I think is important is we heard the issues, we heard the citizens, and together we made a better outcome together. And so I think that's an important aspect of Fort Collins. You know, another aspect, and really credit council in working together on a number of items, but you know, having transit services 365 days a year, having MAX service 365 days a year, that's commitment not only today, but also well into the future, that we have made a transition to transit services in Fort Collins. When you think about mobility with bikes and pedestrians and transit and the automobile, those are really dealt with in very upfront, forward-thinking sort of ways. And so I'm so thankful for that. And I think of Midtown and how that's transitioning into just another wonderful place in our community, that it's a destination, but also many city services and businesses that serve our community so well. And bottom line, what does all this mean to me is a sense of place. Whether you're at a brewery and enjoying an afternoon, or whether you're in a music venue like Washington's will be, but like the Armory and other places throughout our community where you enjoy music on a regular basis, or whether it's things like the downtown holiday lights, or the flowers in downtown, or this is the 25th anniversary of our natural areas. And just having a sense of our nature and our environment that we can enjoy well into the future. And it's that commitment. And now we're committing to nature in the city and some other activities like that. And so we're so fortunate to live in such a wonderful place. And it's not by accident. It's really wonderful people creating a wonderful experience for all.
Well, so the mayor talked quite a bit about the physical layout of the city and just various facilities. And I want to just add to a couple of those, because I do think the physical space matters. My background is in city planning, and so the way in which a community develops and infills and hopefully does that in a very efficient kind of way and very methodical way. You know, I say oftentimes that what's beautiful about Fort Collins that's you don't find in every other community is this idea of, you know, this is a community that plans and then they build their plans. We build our plans. Lots of communities plan but don't build, and lots of communities build and don't plan. And we have really inherited that from our predecessors. And as a planner, it's a true joy to be in that type of community. The Elizabeth Hotel is a phenomenal addition to the downtown, and we thank the partners one or two of them are here this evening, and we are so thankful for that. Do you know that I have a Colorado article from about 37 years ago that said the city wants to be partners and build a downtown hotel? And so check, it's done. So to the three key partners, Bohemian Companies and Sage Hospitality and the McWhinney's Company, we are deeply indebted, and thank you for adding that to our downtown environment. We think it's a huge change, huge improvement, and hopefully will really set the course for the next 50 years. Ginger and Baker, I want to highlight that a little bit here because of just the investment that went into that facility and how important it is down in that on Linden. And part of the reason is, you may not know, but the feed supply, I'm not sure what the name of the business was, but I think it was Feed Supply, something like that. That building was ready to fall down. And that was a gem that needed to be preserved. And we have some incredible folks who've actually done that. And the juxtaposition between the traditional and historic and the new and contemporary seems to be pretty significant in the context of building community and building physical space. And then the mayor mentioned CSU Stadium. It's been had a significant impact. And to the staff teams from CSU and to the staff teams at the City of Fort Collins, Jeff Mihalik, our deputy city manager, was a big part of that, and Lori Kadrich and others, and the hundreds of people that made that game day experience work from a town gown standpoint. Thank you so much. The gardens at Spring Creek and the concert, the sensitively designed concert setting and event center, and we need to show how the built environment and the natural environment can really coexist, and how we can build something that actually and operate something that enhances the livability of the neighborhood, of the area. And I know that the council, even though we have not, we're just under construction now, but I know that's critical to the council, and we take that very seriously, and to the neighbors as well. What an incredible facility this is going to be in less than a year, and just really excited about that. The Whitewater Park is going to be on the Poudre River. It's a world-class kayaking opportunity and also recreation opportunity. So I told my wife I was going to take up kayaking, and she said, "Sure you are. Here goes another hobby." I don't know that that's the safest thing for me to do, but I will tell you that there are a lot of people in this town that really look forward to this, and citizens who've been advocating for a long time for this. And we are one construction season away from really getting that. And it's going to be basically 287 on the river, 287 east, all the way. Eventually, there's a couple stretches we're looking at, but to Linden, just west of Linden. So that's coming. Twin Silo Park, which is a new community park. You saw some pictures of it here. My daughter's here. I can hardly wait to take, when we have our grandkids, which they're on their way, May and June, just have to say. But I will tell you, I can hardly wait to spend time with them at Twin Silo Park and to really just play in that space, because it is a really, really cool place. If you haven't been there, go take a look. The other thing in terms of experience that we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about is really about, because we know, if you look back here, and a lot of this is data driven from our resident survey, and we know that growth is on your mind. We know that traffic is on your mind. And we also know that the affordability of this place is really, really important. And so we'll talk about that in just a few minutes, but I did want to say, at least as our numbers go now, our planners, Cameron Gloss and others, tell us, and told the Futures Committee, the City Council Futures Committee, that this town at build-out is probably going to be around 255,000 people. We're right now 170,000 or so. So how we transition over the next 25 to 30 to 35 years, or maybe longer, to that another 80 to 90,000 people we've got to do really, really right. We've got to do it well. I do know that it's going to be very important that we take that very seriously. The infrastructure has to be right. The capital planning has to be right. The sense of place has to be right. And we also know that we need to make sure at the end of the day that it also remains his hometown and my kid's hometown remain one of the friendliest communities in all of the United States, and we can't mess that up. So that's some work that still is yet to be done.
Thank you.
So Darren, that's a really great segue into our last theme here, talking about staying friendly and going back to the community. And it's an amazing place. There's amazing amenities, but really the community is about the people. And so as we grow, how do we maintain that inclusive community feel, and how do we leverage our community for shared problem solving? So Mayor, you want to start?
You bet. Well, growing up here, my father was on the faculty at CSU, and we would regularly have people literally from around the world at our dinner table. And for me, that was a memorable experience of really the welcoming of people to our community from wherever their background, wherever they came from, and really to share our community. And it's in that spirit that as a community, and particularly in these difficult times, where we can be an example for equity and inclusion for all in our community, and to reach out and to share with those in need and to work with those that need help. And that's where we're committed, I think, individually throughout our community, and with that, to make our community a more inclusive kind of community. So this is for all of our residents and all of our visitors, so that they feel welcome and safe and valued in our community. And we always have work to do there, and let's focus and let's commit to that sort of thing. And the city government is committed to equity and inclusion and working with other primary employers within our community, and really working with others to make us an open, honest, and inclusive community. And one of the things that we can demonstrate that as a city is really a compliment to the council, is thinking of North College Avenue. And there was a lot of investment in North College Avenue that really improved that as another sense of place in our community. And there was a gap. There was a gap around Highway 1 separating for 285. There's a low-income community in that area. And there was about 1,000-foot section that didn't have sidewalk, gutter, and really the connection to the improvements going on 287 North and our North College Avenue. And our council committed to filling that gap, to making a mobility and transit, and as well as bicycles safe to a low-income community. And that's a very basic example how city services can fill an inclusivity gap, and I thank our city council for doing that. Another aspect of inclusivity, I think, is Transit 365, is really providing transit services for every day of the week for people to get to work and to get to visit other people, and particularly in the weather like today, where you need transit. You can't ride your bike or walk as easily. So we really have committed to that through Transit 365. And I think back and engaging literally as a city government when I was in junior high school, and one of the things that I've tried to do and being the mayor is reach out to youth and young adults so they can connect and have an experience with civic engagement. And that's our responsibility, to reaching out to our youth and young adults so they can understand importance of engaging in the civic responsibility and where to start. You can do that in your community, and you can do that in Fort Collins. So that's a commitment that I've made to our youth and young adults to provide for the future. Somebody has said that, I'm the last homegrown mayor of Fort Collins. Well, I don't believe that. I think there are other youth and young adults that are going to be growing up, and they're ready to serve our community well into the future.
Well, right on. you're going to see some of those maybe future mayors later on tonight, right, Mayor?
Sure.
You know, the way I talk about this is we've got some sticky issues that we're dealing with, and the mayor and council know that very much so. This idea of inclusivity matters a lot. And I said earlier, we need to make sure, you know, as we grow up and as this community builds out, that, you know, we stay nice and we stay friendly, and that we're not okay with meanness. And I think it's really important, and I think I can represent, you know, the entire council and say we want to make sure that's a differentiator for us. The way that people, things for me as simple as they open the doors, or they say please or thank you. At a stop sign they do this, and I've told the mayor that my brother who lives in Southern California says, you know, someone does this at a stop sign, you know, it's a little weird. But they do that. We do that in Fort Collins, and that stuff matters. And so when we're 255,000 people, we need to make sure that we're doing that stuff. But also it's more serious than that too. It's the issues of mental health and substance abuse, and we are, you know, I think that what's happened is large cities across the United States historically they play in the space of mental health and substance abuse, and historically small and medium-sized cities, including Fort Collins, you know, we've relied heavily on county government and state government and the federal government, and we still have amazing partners in the county. And just a couple weeks ago, you know, the council had a work session on this very topic, but it's space that now local government has to play in. And you know, historically we've done a lot around community development block grant work as a pass-through from the federal government, and policing work certainly has always involved some mental health and substance abuse work, but we're getting into that space. And I think last day of the city address I mentioned we had built a sustainability service area where we're looking. Jackie Kozak-Teal is the executive director over that area, and they're looking at the economic health, financial health of our city. They're looking at the environmental health of the city, and they're also looking at the social health of our city. And it's an area that we're getting better at. We have a lot of partners. It's very important, and I think that the future, it's challenging. It's a sticky issue, as I said. The other thing I think that's important, bring back that word polarity that I used earlier. And I don't want to depress everyone here, but the mayor and I wanted to kind of hit on a real tough topic, and that is, how is it, this is a polarity, so I'm going to give two examples that you'll see clearly demonstrated. How is it that Fort Collins gets recognized by the National Geographic as being the fourth happiest place in the United States? Fourth, right? Not fifth, fourth. The fourth happiest place in the United States, which, by the way, was data-driven. They didn't just, you know, copy from another ranking. They did some pretty rigorous analysis. But yet, has one of the highest suicide rates in the United States for children and middle-aged guys my age and the mayor's age. So that's a polarity. How is it that we're one of the happiest places in the world, or in the United States, world presumably, and yet we have that? And those are some of the issues that we need to really spend a lot of time on with our partners, and I think we're prepared to do that. I also want to talk about, you know, the mayor's talking about inclusivity. For people to feel included, they need to feel safe as well. They need to feel safe in their homes and their neighborhoods, and they also need to feel safe in the community. And I know that most of you know we've had some challenges with some issues in police services, Fort Collins Police Services. And you've read, I think I counted the other day, there's been 14 or 15 headline stories the last year in the Colorado and about Fort Collins Police Services. And I'll say, and I can speak for our interim police chief, Terry Jones, that never once was the safety of our community jeopardized because of some of those internal administrative challenges that we've had. They've been tough issues. I think we've dealt with them fairly, straightforwardly, very transparently. This is also a really good opportunity to say thank you to our interim chief, Terry Jones, for the leadership that he's provided. He has been an incredible partner of mine, the mayor and council, the city organization, and the leaders and the 300 plus coworkers of ours that are in police services. And Terry, I know you're here, and I'm thankful for the relationship. That relationship as a city manager, police chief, community police chief is going to end within the next couple of months with Chief Jones. And that is because we're in the middle of a recruitment process where we're narrowing down, and I'm hoping that within the next month and a half or so, we're going to have some final candidates here, and you're going to have a chance to meet those folks, and then we're going to make a decision to who would be the next police chief for Fort Collins to lead us into that process. And so I'm very proud of the numbers of relating to the safety in this community. You all, because we know we ask you on a regular basis, and we ask you in a statistically valid survey, you all feel very, very safe in Fort Collins, and we're very appreciative for Fort Collins Police Services in helping do that. We know that there are some areas where you might not perceive that you're safe, and we're working on that. We're very intentional about it. So I appreciate what folks are doing, and my colleagues are doing, and the council's leading to ensure that we have an inclusive Fort Collins for all.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Darren. And Darren, really, that last bit speaks to the idea of co-creation. And we're certainly going to have a lot of opportunities for people to co-create with us in the coming year. We've got City Plan kicking off next week that we'd like to invite everybody to be a part of. It's a budgeting year, so budgeting for outcomes is another opportunity for people to plug in and have their voice heard. We've got the Keep Fort Collins Great tax sunsetting, and I'm going to have some conversations about that as well. So I just want to encourage everybody from the Communications and Public Involvement Office to stay engaged, keep up with what we've got going on, and we'd like to have your input. So before we wrap up tonight with closing remarks, I just want to let everybody know that this conversation will continue, and we're going to have a little reception afterwards, and we'd like to invite you all to stick around and continue the conversation with our council members, the mayor, Darren, city staff as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Darren, for any closing remarks.
Thanks, Amanda. And I want to say thank you to all the people that make a night like tonight happen, from Pat Stryker and Cheryl Zimlick, and making this facility available. As the mayor said, we're very, very thankful to the folks who do, Grant and do all this work, Grant, and the Channel 14 team, and the IT folks, and communications and public involvement folks. And Amanda, I'm so grateful that you are on our team leading our communications efforts. So I really want to say publicly here how much I appreciate your partnership and how you've helped us. We have a great story in Fort Collins, and as the mayor knows, narrative matters. It's how we're telling our story, and we don't, like I said, we want to deliver clearly the story of your local government and how serious this business is, but yet what a joy it is and what a privilege it is to be in these roles. And we've mentioned the word, and I know in the video we've mentioned the word, the inheritance, and there's people that are in this room that have lived in Fort Collins for over 60 years, and mayors that have been here, Arvid Bloom and others, and Mayor Pro Tem Horak, who was early on as a council member and a mayor as well, and just the body of work that has gone into over the last 137 years is remarkable. And whether it's, if you didn't know this, the mayor, his father was on city council as well, and so we've inherited that work also, and whether it was him being the mayor for the day as a boy. But I just can't say thank you enough for that, and what a privilege it is. And the council, I'll tell you, Fort Collins, you elect amazing mayors and you elect amazing city council members. I've only been in this role for 14 years, but as an assistant city manager and city manager for 22 years, You elect amazing leaders, and I am so grateful. And not because most of them are in the room, all of them are in the room, but it's because I'm thankful for the partnership. It's not an us versus them. This is a shared gig. And this mayor for me has been such a privilege to work with, Wade. I love your systems thinking. I love that it is your hometown. You love this place. You love the city staff, and that matters a lot. And to city staff, 2,400 people, 24/7, 365, and time and year after year after year. If you look at that graphic and you look at the journey to excellence, and it did not, by the way, start in 2005. That's when we went to a budgeting for outcomes process. Mayor Hutchinson is here, and on and on and on, which led to this journey to excellence. But I've said inheritance enough, but I'm also going to speak to the work that's been done on that journey in this near term. It's phenomenal. I would hold up this city staff against any other city staff. I've worked in California, in Washington, and in Georgia. I have never, ever seen a more dedicated, committed, deeply competent, capable staff team ever in my entire career, and I'm very appreciative of that. And then the final thing I would say is, we've hit on this idea, and last year the mayor and I did as well, this idea of co-creators, that if you want a local government that is a paternalistic, you give us your problems, we'll fix those problems, thank you very much, pat you on the head. If you've recently moved to Fort Collins, that's not the relationship that you'll have with your local government. I hope that you'll have a relationship with your local government that is a partnership, where it comes with responsibility as well, that you take seriously the idea of the responsibility, but also the privilege you have in helping co-create the future of this community. So I'm thankful for being able to be in this position, and really appreciate the partnership with everyone in the room. So thanks, and Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you. And it's an honor for me to serve as your mayor. And I think Fort Collins is a wonderful place because of its citizens. Citizens that give every day in all different sorts of ways to the community and have passion about the community. And what a delight and a challenge to work with that. And I want to thank our council. We have a wonderful council, citizen legislators that give their time and to their community every day, and they're committed to our community. So I thank our council for everything that they do to work together for a better community. And I'd like to thank Bohemians and Bohemian Foundation and companies, as well as and opening up Washington's tonight, just so our community can see what a wonderful gift to our community this venue is and will be into the future. And I'd like to thank everyone that's in attendance, and a shout out to the watching parties that are out there tonight. And we thank you engaging, and the breweries and the tap rooms that have opened up their doors for having a discussion within our community. How fitting it is to have our citizens engage where they are, not necessarily Tuesday night at City Hall, but where they are, and making our community better every day. I would say without equivocation that Fort Collins' state of the city is excellent. And it's a true honor to serve as your mayor and to be here tonight and to report on that. I think as we think back to the legacy that we have had in our past that has really provided a community that we have here today, and thank those that have gone before us. And also, as we look to the future, the responsibilities that we all have to the future of our community, to make it a place that is not only innovative, but also it's a shared experience, and it's a strong sense of place, and it's also an inclusive community for all. So we're so fortunate to live in Fort Collins, and I'm so fortunate to be here tonight and to share this with you. And in doing so, I thought it would be fitting to have some of our best and brightest, some of our students from Shepherdson and Polaris actually share their vision of what is the future of Fort Collins.
Thank you, everybody.
As we embark on our next 20-year city plan, topics like how we grow, what will our future look like, and what issues we need to address come to mind. We decided to kick off this brainstorming in some of the best places for fresh new ideas and creative thinking, our young think tanks, to give them a voice on this path to the future of growth, transportation, and municipal services in Fort Collins in the best way we know how, to engage them one-on-one and ask them about their perspectives, their insight, and those kinds of ideas that just might change the world someday. So, come along on our journey into the future of Fort Collins.
Something that I really love about Fort Collins is how safe it is and how loving the community is. Like, people are always helping each other and are always looking out for each other.
Everyone feels safe, like not have to worry about it at all. I feel like that's good for a community.
Some of the things that I love is like the parks. That's one of my favorite places to go, and the pool. It's just like really fun to be able to have a chance to hang out with my friends, and it's so close to Old Town, so once we're done with that, we can just walk to Old Town.
I love the shops and the lights and the food and just like the central culture that's embodied in Old Town.
Me and my sister like to joke sometimes that it's hard to tell the difference between an art exhibit and the parks in Fort Collins because they're so creative and colorful.
Because if a kid doesn't have a park, really, he's not that happy.
I love being able to walk out and just have like a beautiful place to look and that's peace and everything like that.
Yeah, I really like the nature and how much wildlife there is.
Because some cities don't even have that. And we just need to protect that because it makes us unique.
What I love about Fort Collins is how communal everything is, and also how much bike paths there are, and how accessible it is to be able to get to places through biking.
Because I'm a BMXer myself, and I just like how we're one of the most bike-safe cities, and how we're just super oriented about that.
I love all of the places. You have more than one option to have fun somewhere.
If we want to go shopping, there's that we can go to. If we want to play at a park, there's a bunch of those. Like, there's just everything here.
I think that it's okay to build buildings, but we should still keep some open space around.
One of the things we should do is at least replace some of the things that we cleared away, if it's trees, because they'll still help our environment.
Because people need trees to survive, because trees give off oxygen, and oxygen is what we breathe in.
Preserve the natural resources that we have here in Fort Collins and make sure that we're a sustainable town that does everything we can to make our planet better for us and for future generations.
I think we can make the traffic better by adding some more roads that lead to the same road that they'd normally get. So like a shortcut.
Compared to a lot of other places, there's a very low diversity, and to increase that, I think that having more more Hispanics or African Americans being more represented.
It just allows you to see different perspectives on things and just have a bunch of different things to do, because different people's point of view bring different things to light.
Without new ideas, you can't grow, and without being able to grow, then you just stay the same, and that's not good for a town.
Our house rates are going up as more people try to move here, but also we only have one Foco Cafe. So if we got more of them, which would help us, because as our population grows, our homeless population might grow as well. And we want them to still survive and eventually get them back on their feet, but they need more food and places to rest at night.
I would cut down all the trees affected by mountain pine beetles and build cheap homes or homeless shelters for the homeless.
I had this idea a while ago. Care packages. So toothbrushes, tents, just the regular stuff people need.
I'm hoping that there will be a lot of horses. I love horses, but I'm hoping that people will find a healthier way to use energy. That way we don't have climate change continuously going on.
I think maybe we could do solar power instead, because there's always going to be rays of sun somewhere.
I'd like to see our air quality improve because cars are still polluting a lot. So maybe electric cars, and there's a lot of crashes, so maybe it could be like electric self-driving cars.
I hope that we'll be better at caring for our environment, because that's a big one for me, because it bothers me when you find all this trash at the end of this little creek or something, and it's well, somebody obviously threw them away into the creek or something thinking that they'd disappear, but they won't, because it'll just go somewhere else and become somebody else's problem.
Because some people don't realize that we're really lucky to have those mountains and to go do all that stuff. So I hope that more people will be out in the mountains and getting outdoors instead of staying inside on electronics.
I think that we could improve our cops vehicles, so then if they're chasing a high-speed Lamborghini, they could easily catch up with it. Like a Bugatti, or a Ducati.
Well, I really want to have a fun job that I like, and I'm excited to go to work, because some people don't have that kind of job.
I really want to have a real hoverboard, not like the ones I have today where you just are on wheels and you're whoa, and you fall down all the time. I want one that's kind of like a real skateboard that hovers. Well, I think we should have hoverboards, hover skates, cars that can fly, stuff like that.
I would make unicorns the main form of transportation.
I think we'll be better at almost everything, because we'll learn from our mistakes in the past and we'll try to make it better.